The storm that night was louder than anything Aaron, the single-dad CEO, had heard in years. Rain hammered the roof of the community shelter he funded in secret, where he sometimes volunteered to remind himself of the world outside boardrooms. He walked through the crowded hall, offering dry blankets and warm soup, ignoring the curious glances people often gave him. No one here knew he was the CEO of Arden Technologies, the man who had built an empire from nothing. To them, he was just Aaron, the quiet volunteer with tired eyes and a gentle voice. As he placed a bowl on a small table, he noticed a boy around 8 years old staring at him from a dark corner. The boy seemed hesitant, clutching a worn-out backpack and glancing repeatedly over his shoulder. Aaron smiled softly and crouched down a little. "Hey, buddy, you hungry?" The boy nodded but didn't move. His clothes were soaking, his hair dripping from the rain outside. Something about his eyes, fear mixed with hope, made Aaron pause. Slowly, the boy stepped forward and whispered, "Sir, my sister can't walk, can we stay with you?" Aaron blinked, unsure if he'd heard correctly. Before he could ask, the boy pulled gently on his sleeve and pointed toward the corner. There, lying on a thin, uneven mattress, was a girl who looked about 10. She was trembling under a damp jacket, her legs stretched straight and stiff. Her lips were pale, and every few seconds she flinched as if cold stabbed through her bones. Aaron walked over immediately, kneeling beside her. "Hey there," he said softly. "What's your name?" "Lila," she whispered, barely audible. "And you?" Aaron turned to the boy. "Evan," he said, "please don't send us outside. We don't have anywhere else." A knot formed in Aaron's chest. He felt the weight of those words. He had seen adults lose hope, but seeing it in a child was different, it cut deeper. He gently touched Lila's forehead and realized she was burning with fever. "Have you seen a doctor?" he asked. Evan shook his head quickly. "No money. We left our house 3 days ago." The storm roared again, louder this time, and the lights flickered. Aaron took a slow breath, steadying himself. The CEO in him wanted facts, a plan, security. But the father in him, once a struggling man raising his son alone, reacted first. "You're staying," he said firmly. "Both of you. I'll take care of it." Evan's shoulders dropped in relief so sudden he nearly cried. Aaron wrapped Lila in a thicker blanket and lifted her gently, feeling the frailness of her body. She winced but did not complain. Evan walked close behind as Aaron carried her to the small private room reserved for emergencies. Inside, he checked her again, noticing bruises on her legs that weren't from walking. They looked like old injuries, untreated. "Evan," he said gently, "how did this happen?" Evan looked at the floor, fingers twisting. "Our stepdad. He drinks. He hit her. Hit me too. Mom tried to protect us but she couldn't. So we ran." Aaron felt anger burn in him, hot and sharp. He kept his voice calm. "You did the right thing by coming here." Lila opened her eyes a little. "Are we safe now?" she whispered weakly. Aaron looked at both of them, his jaw tightening with decision. "Yes," he said, "you're safe now, I promise." Evan moved closer, gripping Aaron's sleeve again. This time not out of fear, but trust. The thunder outside settled into a distant rumble, but inside the small room a different kind of quiet formed, one filled with the fragile beginning of hope. Aaron stepped out briefly to get medicine and warm clothes, unaware that this night, this storm, would bring changes no one expected, and that his life, tightly built around responsibility and solitude, was about to be rewritten by two small, broken children who had asked him for nothing but a chance to stay. The storm had weakened by morning, but the shelter was still filled with the smell of damp clothes and the soft murmurs of exhausted people. Aaron had barely slept. He spent most of the night checking Lila's fever, making sure she sipped water, and keeping Evan close so the boy wouldn't panic whenever thunder rolled. When dawn finally broke, pale and gray, Lila was resting more comfortably, but her legs remained motionless. The sight troubled him more than he wanted to admit. When Lila opened her eyes, she looked around anxiously until she spotted Aaron sitting beside her bed. He offered a reassuring smile. "Good morning, Lila. How do you feel?" "Better," she whispered. "My legs still hurt, but not as much." Evan, curled up in a chair, jumped awake the moment he heard her voice. He rushed to her side, clutching her hand. "I'm here. I didn't go anywhere." Aaron watched them silently. There was a tenderness between the two siblings that reminded him painfully of his own son when he was younger, always protective, always afraid of losing the only family he had left. The memory tugged at him, making him more certain that he couldn't let these kids return to danger. He stepped out for a moment to call Drive Reynolds, a trusted friend who owed him more than a few favors. Within an hour the doctor arrived, carrying a medical kit and concern on his face. Aaron briefed him quietly. She hasn't walked in a long time. Bruises on her legs, fever, malnutrition. Dr. Reynolds nodded. I'll examine her. You stay with the boy. Aaron approached Evan, who looked at the doctor with suspicion. The boy's hands trembled again. Is he going to take her away? No, Aaron said firmly. He's my friend. He's here to help. Evan hesitated, then slowly relaxed, letting the doctor examine Lila. The room fell silent except for soft instructions and gentle reassurances. When the examination was over, Drive Reynolds asked Aaron to step aside. It's not permanent, the doctor whispered. But her legs are weak and badly bruised. She hasn't healed from previous injuries, and the cold made it worse. She'll need real care, Aaron. Not shelter care. Aaron already knew what he would say before the words left his mouth. I'll take her to my place. The doctor looked at him knowingly. You're getting attached. I'm not letting them go back to that man, Aaron replied. They need a home, even if it's temporary. When Aaron returned to the room, Evan immediately stood, eyes pleading. Is she okay? Aaron crouched down to meet him at eye level. She's going to be fine. But she needs more help than we can give here. I want to take both of you home with me, just until she gets better. Evan blinked rapidly, as if unsure he'd heard correctly. Home, your home, if that's okay with you, Aaron added softly. Lila turned her head weakly toward them. Evan, please, I want to go. That was all it took. Evan nodded, tears slowly gathering. Okay, but, sir, we won't be trouble, I promise. Aaron placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. You're never trouble. By afternoon, the storm clouds had fully cleared, leaving the world washed clean. Aaron drove the siblings to his home, an elegant, warm house that felt far too big for one man. Evan's eyes widened at the sight, but he stayed close to Lila, helping Aaron carry her inside. She rested on the softest couch she had ever touched, sinking into it with a sigh. For the first time in days, she looked at peace. Aaron watched them settle down, feeling something shift quietly inside him. This wasn't just responsibility. It wasn't charity or temporary care. It felt like fate, like something he was meant to do. And though he didn't say it out loud, a decision had already taken root in his heart. These two children were not leaving his side anytime soon. The first night in Aaron's home felt like a different world for Evan and Lila. Everything was warm, soft, and quiet, too quiet for children used to sleeping in fear. Evan kept glancing around the spacious living room as if expecting someone to yell at them for touching anything. Lila lay wrapped in a thick blanket on the couch, her legs elevated on soft cushions just as Dr. Reynolds instructed. Her fever had dropped, but exhaustion still clung to her fragile frame. Aaron prepared simple food, soup, bread, and fruit, hoping it would be easy for them to eat. When he returned to the living room with a tray, he found Evan sitting on the floor beside the couch, holding Lila's hand as if she would slip away if he let go. The boy looked up quickly when Aaron approached. We can eat in the kitchen if you want, he said nervously. We don't want to make a mess. Aaron shook his head with a gentle smile. You're staying right here. This is your home now too. The words hung in the air. Lila's eyes widened slightly. Evan froze, unsure whether he dared believe what he just heard. Aaron placed the tray on the table and helped Lila sit up. For the first time, she ate without rushing. Evan, still cautious, ate slowly, watching Aaron with a puzzled expression, as if he couldn't understand why a stranger would be so kind. After dinner, Aaron guided Evan to the guest room next to Lila's. The room had a soft bed, a desk, and a small lamp. Evan stared at it like it was a museum exhibit. Is this really for me? Aaron nodded. You can sleep here, if you want. Evan swallowed hard. Can I leave the door open? So I can hear Lila. Of course. When the children finally slept, Aaron stood in the hallway, looking between their rooms. He had spent years building his empire, managing crises, making decisions worth millions, yet nothing had felt as heavy or meaningful as the responsibility resting on him now. He knew their stepfather would not simply disappear. And he knew, deep inside, that protecting these children might turn into a battle he wasn't prepared for, but one he was willing to fight. Morning came quietly. Sunlight filtered through the curtains as Aaron prepared breakfast. Before he could finish, he heard small footsteps behind him. Evan stood at the kitchen entrance, hair messy, eyes uncertain. Good morning, Aaron said warmly. Sleep okay? Evan hesitated. I woke up, and I thought maybe it was a dream. Aaron set the spatula down and turned fully toward him. It's not a dream. You're safe here. Evan lowered his head. People don't usually want us around. Aaron crouched down to his level. Well, I do. The boy blinked rapidly, fighting tears he didn't want Aaron to see. Then he whispered, thank you. Later that day, Drive. Reynolds visited to examine Lila again. She was already stronger, though still unable to move her legs fully. As he checked her, Aaron stepped aside to take a phone call from his assistant. Sir, an investigator is here, she said, her voice uneasy. He says he's looking for 2 missing children. Aaron's heart clenched. He ended the call and rushed back to the living room. Doctor. Reynolds saw the look on his face and immediately understood something was wrong. Evan sensed it too. He grabbed Lila's hand protectively. Is someone coming for us? Evan asked, his voice trembling. Aaron knelt in front of him. No one is taking you away, he said with quiet certainty. Not while I'm here. Fear flickered in Evan's eyes. Lila looked up at Aaron, trusting him more than she trusted her own memories of safety. Aaron stood and took a slow breath, preparing himself. He had spent years fighting corporate battles, negotiating with ruthless rivals, and defending his company from hostile takeovers. But this, defending 2 fragile children, felt like the most important battle of his life. And he was ready. He walked toward the door, his expression turning firm. Whatever waited on the other side, officials, investigators, or even the man who had hurt these children, Aaron knew one thing for certain: he was not letting anyone break them again. He had given them a promise. And he intended to keep it.